Look, have mercy on me.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. We are back in studio after 2 weeks recording digitally. Gabe, you excited to be back?
Yeah, it feels right.
It feels
right. Yeah, we had the weather. Then we had some undisclosed sicknesses that we will not mention on air. But now we're back in studio. We have our Waterloos. Although I had a little issue there.
Woo.
Before you even got here today.
Yeah.
You should have said, Kenny saw it.
Major spillage.
Dropped this thing, and it just
the studio got,
I don't know what it was.
The studio
man.
got
It
a
was
bath in
unreal.
Waterloo.
It's not the first time you've spilled
We didn't
Waterloo.
have paper towels either, so it was kind of rough.
Same thing happened last time. We had to use the old TP.
Yeah. TP. It is not good for picking up a mess. I'll tell you that. It's good for other messes.
It's fair.
But not for liquid like that.
No, not for an excessive amount of liquid.
Yes, for sure. But it feels right, man.
It does.
Glad to be back.
It does. Good to be back. You sparked something that I was going to say, but now I don't
You forget.
recall.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
That happens sometimes, man.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It's where we're at in our age and in our lives. We're getting old.
Oh. Well, God, shut up. God. Is this not anybody else's pet peeve?
No, it is.
28 years old, 26, 25?
5, yeah.
Going on 26. Bro, you're not old.
Oh, I know. I can't
I'm older, and like I think I'm older in the brain because I took too many hits back in the day.
Yeah, and in body.
Yeah, and in body. Yes. So you know, maybe I have that excuse, but I don't even. I don't.
Do you not feel old some days? You feel
no. I still feel like I'm the same person that I was when I was like 13.
See,
I don't feel any different. Like obviously I've grown, I've matured. You know, but like same person.
Let's stay on this for a minute because this is an interesting phenomenon. Me and Anna Ruth were talking about this. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and she was like, "I still like in my mind feel like I'm 17."
Yes,
and
I look myself in the mirror and I'm like, I see the same.
Yeah, I'm not a
person.
I'm not a grown up.
Yeah,
I look at myself all the time. I'm like, I'm not a grown up.
Yeah,
I'm still a kid somehow.
Yeah, I don't view myself any different.
So that's why I say the being old stuff is a joke because I say that all the time. Like,
now if I was mentally still the same age,
that would be
a problem. Obviously, I've grown, I've matured.
We would not be doing this show together if
like Kenny. How about you? I'm curious about you. You're a little older.
Fuck y'all. That's all I'm gonna say. That's what I want to say.
Do you look in the mirror and you're like, damn, I'm old?
Yes.
So when does the switch happen?
I mean,
is it like when you have kids? Obviously, it's not when you get married because Gabe is married at this point. So when do you realize, man, I'm not 17, 18 years old anymore?
when you have to start like plucking gray hairs out of your beard.
Oh, I do that now.
Yeah, I just don't think that's it. It's
I don't
gotta-
do that. I do that now.
It's when, like right now, if you had to choose, like if somebody said to you, like, hey, you could either sit on the couch and eat something unhealthy or go play basketball or go do
something healthy.
Go do something else. And you always choose to sit on the couch and eat something unhealthy. That's a part for me. Like that was... But
so that had to be a mindset switch.
Yeah, it was a mindset switch. It was a...
But you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm old as shit.
Hell yes.
I still, like, honestly, I still look in the mirror and I'm like, do people like think I'm this age or do people think I'm like 18? Like, what do they think?
If you shaved,
you'd be 18.
If you shaved, you'd be the kid I knew when you were at the University of Memphis and we were doing the damn
film review.
room. Yeah.
I think for me it was a... You look up and you're like 5 years down the line and you just go, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like 5 years down the line and you go, man, like I'm more out of shape than I've ever been in my entire life. Like that happened to me at like 35.
That's happening to me right now, but I don't feel that much.
I don't know.
I would imagine
I could still go give folks work if we hit the open gym.
Yeah.
So
I would imagine
I just
kids
get through 2 games and be cashed.
done. I'd imagine kids has to play a big role.
Kids plays a huge role in it. Like especially, it's more so when the years start going by like so fast and you're just doing the same thing over and over again with your kids. Like I don't know, man. It's hard to explain, but definitely at the age. But I will say this though, this was a good birthday for me. I turned 43 this year. For the entire year, I know, right?
I'm kidding.
What, Kevin Hart?
Yeah. Said I'm 57. Damn.
Sorry. For the entire year, I thought I was turning 44 until like 2 days before my birthday. I'm sitting in the room with my twin sister, Erin, and I said, we're turning 44 in 2 days. And she goes, no, we're not. We're turning 43. I was like, yes, I got a year back. So maybe that's when I realized I'm old. I thought I was older than I really am. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, kids, I think, definitely play a role in that.
That's what I would say would have to be the biggest one. Like, if I'm just guessing, because you hear parents all the time be like, you were just a baby and now you're X age and now you're grown and now you're in high school. So, like, I would imagine kids
We got our
accelerate.
confirmation because we had to ask our resident oldie.
Right.
Is there like, I think it's an age. Like, do you think 40? Like, what number age-wise sounds crazy to y'all right now that y'all would hit?
I think 40 would definitely be the age. Like, damn, I've lived 40 years.
Yeah.
It's 40.
Yeah, I mean, that's 15
No offense
years
to you
or
or
14 years.
That was 3 years ago for me.
That's the one where I
But
I
also,
don't know.
I don't think there's like an age that signifies being old, if that makes sense.
40
like
just feels
on
like a
paper. On paper, I think it can, but like,
I mean, shit. When somebody gets to 70, I think you're old.
I mean, yeah,
You've lived-
but you
you've
know
lived a lot
what
of
I'm
life.
saying? Like, I really do think like age is a mental thing. Like, I think you hear it all the time, the old phrase of like, you're only as old as you feel. Like, I think that's legit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that.
Like, I know people that are older that don't do well physically, 50, 60, 70 years old. And then there's been times where I go play pickleball and there's 73-year-old men out there
Cooking.
and they're
Cooking,
and they're
They
not
love
just
it.
doing like the stand at the net, like they're moving.
Well, I think your dad's a perfect example of that, right?
Whose dad?
Your dad.
My dad's old.
I know, but he doesn't come across old, does he?
No, not in the way he acts, but physically he's getting there.
Is he getting there?
A little bit.
Have you seen a shift in him?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Uh-oh.
A little bit. I mean, he's got a lot of like he's got a hernia, he's got a torn rotator cuff, he's had bad knees since like high school football that he's never gotten any of it fixed. So I really think that's why, because the man is still like 20 at heart for sure. So I see what you're saying. Mentally, yeah, I don't see him as almost 50 at all.
My dad's got a hearing aid now. That was interesting.
Wow.
It was an interesting switch.
How old is Tom? Tom's
58. He was born in 50. Do you do this too? I lose track of how old my parents
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
I try to keep refreshed on it.
So he'd be 65.
So my dad-
65, about to be 66.
6.
No, he's about to be 65.
He was born in 58.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
He's
dad
about to
is
be 66.
66, damn.
Yeah, my dad is 66.
It is 2024.
He was born in 57.
Yeah, he's about to be 66.
My
pops.
dad was born in 74.
Yeah.
So he'll be 50 in
He's
August.
only 7 years older than me.
Yeah, if you would have made like a really bad mistake in high school, I could be your son.
Listen. Really
Because
bad.
I think my dad had me at 23, so you'd have been
I'd have been 23.
16. Like if you'd have had
Oh,
a
yeah,
kid
yeah,
at
yeah,
16,
yeah.
it'd be my age.
That
we might
happens.
Need to, we might need to do a test,
life.
Christian. We might need to do a test.
Lord.
I don't think we do.
I don't see the resemblance,
No,
guys.
not
I'm
even
just
a
going to go
little
out there and say it. Don't see the
If you've
resemblance.
seen
in the
Christian's
slightest.
dad, you know there's no doubt.
Yeah, we look
If Kenny
very
was your
similar.
pops, I think you'd be a little
Taller?
You'd have a couple more
Yeah,
inches.
but because Kenny's son is not very old and he's already working his way up there.
He's getting close.
He's getting
He's
up
getting
there.
close. No one else is getting old though. Speaking of old,
What,
Tigers losing ball games.
dude? Hell of a segue. Put it there.
There you go.
Thanks,
I
buddy.
got you.
All right. Anyway, 3 in a row. We talked about this last week. Obviously, didn't really know where to be on the panic meter because they lose a game to South Florida, and you go, okay, that could be a fluke. They lose a game to Tulane, and you say you can justify that with, okay, Tulane's a pretty solid team. Then they lose their 3rd in the row to UAB. They allowed 97 points. Optically, it looks terrible, both on the sidelines and on the floor. And now I think we can safely press the panic button, and that's not an overreaction at all in the slightest.
I think we should be. I mean, it's freak out mode. I just saw Lenardi put out his bracketology is not like fully published, but he put out his like primer, and they're in the last 4 buys. They're the first team in the last 4 buys. They're on the bubble.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 quad 3 losses, 1 quad 2 loss. You've looked like shit. I'm not going to hide it.
No.
They have looked like shit, and they're just the emotional lapses they have. It's just ridiculous. And then also, if I'm projecting forward what I think this team's going to look like and like how they get things right, I can't project that.
I can't either.
How do you make people like each other with your team chemistry issues? How do you find a leader that's not Caleb Mills that can step up and start saying things to this team that they'll actually it'll resonate with them? Like all the things that they need to fix are they're out of the control of anything you do on the floor.
Right.
It's about liking each other more. And when does that happen? I don't know.
Yeah. It's not really physical stuff, I think, that this team's dealing with right now.
It turns into physical stuff.
It does.
For sure.
But I think it all starts mentally and chemistry-wise and teamwork-wise, and that stuff's just not there. We talked about it last week, and we said, Caleb Mills can't be the only excuse for this team not living up to the success that they had earlier in the season, whether that's from a leadership perspective, whether that's from a defensive perspective, which we talked about. One player
should not shift.
One player on a team with this much talent, and Caleb Mills is not like a top 10 player in the country. So there are examples where you could say, if you take this player off of this team, okay, things can fall apart. But Caleb Mills, very good player, not the best player on this team.
He was a bench player.
Bench player, and they've fallen apart for all intents and purposes. You don't see the effort on the defensive end. You see confusion on both ends of the floor. You see, like you said, just kind of a lack of caring, I guess, for a lack of better words. Like they just don't look engaged at all. This is not, and this might go without saying, but this is not the team that we were seeing earlier in the season by any means.
And here's how fragile it's been. You were 10 in the AP poll 2 weeks ago.
Right.
You're now 6th in the AAC 2 weeks later.
Yep.
10 in the AP poll 2 weeks ago. 6th in the American Athletic Conference 2 weeks. That's I should not have to explain this fall from grace anymore.
No.
It's ridiculous, man, what we watch night to night. And they've just lost confidence. They lost their faith in each other. They've lost the faith, I think, in Penny Hardaway. And I thought that sort of showed in that game. And I know people will take this the wrong way. It doesn't mean that Penny can't right the ship. It doesn't mean that these guys can start loving on each other and meshing better. But in that game against UAB, I saw a team for the first 10, 12 minutes locked in on the defensive game plan, because we know Penny said, hey, we're going to practice really hard this entire week. We're going to get the defensive game plan locked in. So for the first 10 to 12 minutes, I saw them rotating. I saw them closing out on shooters. I saw them pressing the ball. They created a bunch of turnovers. They had 21. But then you sort of saw them still giving up these open looks, and they're still gave up 45 by halftime. You get in the second half, and everything starts to spiral out of control. And then you just see a team lose complete faith and stop playing with any level of emotion, any level of intent, any level of intensity. You just see this team fall apart at the seams. And you need to have somebody. This is where Caleb Mills comes in. You have to have somebody who can step up in those moments and say, guys, I know things haven't gone our way, but we have to still trust our teaching.
Yeah.
We have to still trust our game plan. Now, if the game plan sucks, that falls on Penny Hardaway.
Right.
But you have to have someone in those moments not named Penny Hardaway step up and tell them, trust your teaching. Let's grind this away. Let's grind at this deficit.
Yeah.
And then also, the sideline interview with Penny was, quite frankly, one of the most funny efforts I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Andy Kennedy was trying to put up with it, and he did a good job of it. Penny didn't answer a single question.
No.
That the guys asked him. But what you did see in that moment, if you were wondering why the guys on the floor start to lose their intensity and their hope and their faith, look at how Penny responds. I seriously, just like next time you're at the game, if you haven't watched that sideline interview, see if you can go play it back. Watch how Penny Hardaway responds to things going south in a game. Face in the hands, throwing his hands up, palms up. Just, he seems to let go of the rope and not. It felt like, especially in that second half when things started going south, an emotional follow the leader. You're following the emotional, bar set by Penny Hardaway. And that's why I think a lot of things fell apart.
Yeah.
as well in that second half.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect point because you look and you watch him and you watch his demeanor, and it doesn't look like he has any confidence in them to do the right things. And that's obviously going to be a trickle-down effect. If the coach doesn't have any trust and any confidence in the players don't have any reciprocated towards him, they don't have any towards each other. It feels like, and you know, a lot of this we know is speculative. Like, we're not in day-to-day meetings and practices and stuff. But I think just from watching, you can say, like, this culturally, this team is starting to melt. And you put it as, you know, falling apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like we're watching right now. Is there a way for this to be turned around? Sure. How does that happen? And this is typically what we do, is how does that happen? And we talk about it. I really can't give you anything. I really can't give you...
That we haven't said 400 times in the past 2 weeks.
Right. And we haven't seen any of that acted upon or anything really change from this team, from this coaching staff, from that point. So I'm extremely concerned because what we're in danger of now, and the fact that we're here from the point where we were at a couple weeks ago is insane, because we're talking about this team's a top 10 team in the country. They can go beat anybody in a tournament-style neutral site game. And now we're talking about a team that could miss out on the NCAA tournament altogether.
Have you seen their metrics?
Yeah.
All right, let me pull these up because I want to get the exact numbers correct. We have a completely unranked in the AP poll, that goes without saying. Ken Palm 61, Net 66, Bart Torvik 78. And Bart Torvik does a projection of teams that are tournament worthy. Will they make the tournament? Will they not? Their percentage chance to make the tournament, according to Bart Torvik, is 25.2%. They were right around 95 to 100 2 weeks ago.
Right.
They're at 25.2% because he's projecting out in the future, like, okay, these problems, how can you solve them?
Yeah.
Like, is there any real way to make that happen?
Yeah.
Because if not, I'm just going to have to project them to lose more games along the way if they can't figure this whole thing out. And I think the two things, if the two things they need to fix, like each other, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
They don't really know each other that well.
Right.
For God's sakes, Jordan Brown probably met Naquan Tomlin last week, and they played meaningful minutes in that UAB game on the floor at the same time. And then two, find a vocal leader in the locker room. Those two things I think would solve, I don't know, 90% of the issues that ail this team. And
even that's difficult, because you would like to think that if somebody was going to become that vocal and emotional leader, it would have happened at this point. It would have already come to fruition. So we really are watching a team in a full meltdown right now. And there's no we're not doomsday type people anyway. Usually we're pretty positive.
You want to stay positive, but
it's looking really, really bleak right now. I mean, this team has lost 3 games in a row to, on paper, at least inferior opponents, games that they should have won. I mean, this is a team that, okay, now they have 5 losses. We were really saying they're probably only going to have 4 or 5 losses by the end of the season. And here we sit. You still got 2 games against FAU. You still got a matchup against Wichita State. You still got a matchup against Tulane. Like, there's still, with this version of this team, there's still a lot of losable games out there.
Yeah, and you here's the thing. I just look at the fact that they're, 8 or 9 range right now. That's what they are, and you wanted to avoid that.
Right.
You wanted to be a top 7 seed so you can get out of that 8-9 game, not play a 1 seed in the second round. And even those games you mentioned, are those going to, even if you ran the table, which I definitely don't expect with the way this team's playing, if you ran the table, won a couple of those games, you can't really raise your seed line an insane amount at this point.
No.
There's nothing out in front of you that's going to boost you to where you were 2 weeks ago, which was a 4 or 5 seed.
Right.
You cannot. It is going to be literally impossible for them to get there.
It's not going to happen.
And that's where it's like, okay, click the panic button.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just save your season, get to the tournament now.
Yeah.
The real comparison I think to that is last year's FAU team, right? We hate the comparison between
lost
Memphis
3 games.
Lost 3 games the entire season.
31-3.
31-3. the two games that they lost were their two the Power Six teams that they played non-con.
Ole Miss and Florida.
Ole Miss and Florida last year rolled through their conference and still got an 8-9 seed. And this is going to be kind of the same situation, even if they roll through the next 11 games. Which, let's be frank,
I don't know how you could project that.
You can't project
you
that
can't.
with this team right now.
You can't. And that FAU team won the conference tournament as well.
Right.
And it's hard to project Memphis going and winning 3 games in 3 days at this point.
I mean, they're even flirting with missing the tournament. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely on.
They've
the
lost
table.
2 quad 3 games, so that would lead you to believe that they could lose more quad 3 games on the road.
Right. Yeah, no, they're absolutely capable. At this point, with what we've seen, even before the 3 losses.
Are you going to do the capabilities on both sides, like the polls of what this could be, good and bad? Because that's insane to even think about too.
No, it's very.
I
weighted.
lean bad.
It's very weighted on the bad side. But
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if you take the last 3 games, and even if you peel back the layers before that of things that we weren't concerned of because they were winning those games, Memphis is capable of losing every game on the rest of their schedule. That's true. That sounds crazy, but we're talking about a team.
But I don't want to believe they can lose to Rice at home.
You don't.
That's their next game. I don't want to believe that on Wednesday they can lose to Rice at home.
No, you don't want to believe that. But let's go back now because this stuff is starting to make a little bit more sense. UTSA overtime, they allowed 101 points. Like, let's not forget. I know all that stuff was kind of irrelevant at the time
because they won,
because they were winning those games. But you look at it now, and you can't really look out and say, okay, there's not a team that Memphis can't lose. They can lose any game left on the schedule. Do I believe on the flip side they can win every game on the schedule as well? Yeah, I think they can.
You're talking about those wins like you ever seen Step Brothers when they're in the interview to be a football coach?
Yeah.
And they have the freaking suits on and they fart and he goes, now the suits seem weird now. Now the games they won feel suspect as shit now.
They do.
Because of what we've seen the last 3.
Yeah.
So Penny said something last week in an availability. He said that, and I thought this was a fire quote, in the end, it doesn't really mean much because they had a week off and came out and looked like dog shit against UAB. But he said, I accepted things in winning that I wouldn't accept in losing. What are those things? Like, if you guys could put your fingers on what those things were, what do you think that is?
Sloppy defense would have to be one.
Yeah, sloppy defense mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. And then a lot of hero ball on offense. Those are the 2 things that I think really jump off that have been just nasty now when you see them lose. You see David Jones and Javon Quinterly, your top 2 guys on this roster in that game against UAB, combined for 13 turnovers and a combined minus 26 when they're on the floor against UAB.
Yeah.
Alabama, Birmingham. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you just let these things go unchecked for so long. This is a result you get.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating that Penny let it go unchecked, that's the quote he gives at this point, because this is something me and you were talking about in that stretch run. It was like, okay, yeah, they're winning ball games.
But you got to clean that stuff up.
But even when you're winning, you have to clean things up as if you're losing. If you win by 6 in overtime and give up 101 points to UTSA, you should mentally treat that like a loss. We were talking about that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And clearly that's not what was being done.
No.
Behind closed doors.
No, and even we get the thought shift of the Wichita State game, and now that Wichita State game looks like the outlier of the bunch.
Yeah. Isn't it nasty, though? They play the 3 worst games of the year following their best half of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I think it shows you how volatile this team is. It shows you how volatile this team is. And that's what I'm saying previous to that. They could go win every game left on the schedule. They could go lose 4 or 5 more games this year. Yeah. Like, there's the range of outcomes.
That's what I was trying to get at a little earlier.
Yeah, the range of outcomes for this team is probably more volatile than any team we've seen under Penny Hardaway, I would say. And what is really scary at this point, if you are a University of Memphis basketball fan, is that a couple weeks ago, this was a team with legit Elite 8 plus.
At least second weekend.
Yeah, this was Elite 8 plus type of team. Now it's a team that can miss out on the tournament. And there's some times where you say, okay, they shouldn't have been in that position anyway. That's not true with this team. They're so talented. They're so experienced. It's like all the stars aligned for this year to be a successful year, and now it's going down the drain. And if the ship doesn't right, if the ship doesn't right this year with this team, with this amount of talented players on the roster, then, I mean, it's hard not to question Penny. And I don't think either one of us have ever really been hard in the question in Penny camp. And we've always been pretty.
His record at Memphis is
Right.
what, 126 and 57?
Right.
It's
I
like
think
ridiculous.
we've always been pretty positive on him and pretty faithful in what he can do. But the fact that he's in danger of letting it slip with the best team that he's had is pretty scary. Now, obviously, we're projecting over the rest of the season. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. But it just feels like this team is too good and the situation is too good with this first year and what the AAC looks like, that this is an opportunity that can't really be wasted, that is now kind of being pissed down the drain.
And if this goes like completely south, and I'm talking like worst case scenario, miss the tournament, that type of thing, go to the NIT, whatever. I think to add on to your point, look at how he put together this roster. Clearly, NIL played a part in it. Clearly, bringing in all these transfers, high-ranking transfers. They came here because they believed in Penny and the vision he had. If you piss all this away this year, I get worried about what comes after
the tough
that.
sell that it is.
What the NIL givers, the donors, they're looking at it like,
Why?
we brought in David Jones and Javon Quinterly on X amount of money and X amount of money, and that ended up going straight down the toilet.
Straight to the NIT.
Yes, like what are we spending this type of money for? And then also players will look at it and be like, damn.
With that,
you got that? You went to the NIT with that?
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot up for question. I don't doubt that Penny will still be able to recruit at a high level, bring in transfer portal guys, but a lot of that will be thrown. If he does not right the ship this year, it gets thrown. It'll be a narrative.
Oh, yeah.
It'll continue to be a narrative. And then it will continue to have the narrative will only speed up of Penny Hardaway underachieves with the talent he has at Memphis.
Yeah.
Even though he's 126 and 57, and he'll end the season with a good record. He'll have a 65% winning percent, whatever, 60% winning percentage. But
Yeah.
I mean, those narratives, those agendas, what people say, that only speeds up if he can't write this thing. And then I do kind of wonder, like, just sort of looking at the rest of this year, if things really go south, how much drama will continue to just percolate through that locker room? What will we be talking about here in 3 weeks if they drop another 2 or 3 games?
Yeah.
I don't know what these guys are going to think, even on this team.
No.
Because it's bad now. It could get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. A lot of negativity so far. Are we ready to flip this for some positivity? I think
we're there. I think we're there.
I think I'm ready to be positive. Unfortunately, I don't think I can be very positive about Memphis basketball right now. So I think we're gonna have to flip the script a little bit.
Okay.
We're talking about culture. We're talking about all these things. I will tell you one place that I know for sure has a great culture from top to bottom. That's here where we are right now in this studio. Kenny Stubblefield, Gabe Kuhn, myself, Christian Fowler. A hell of a culture has been built here. No one can
Good
question
culture
that.
in the producers booth.
Yeah,
too.
that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
The culture, we're talking about the trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Emotional follow the leader.
It starts there. It starts in the producer's room with Kenny Stubblefield. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back on the other side, our top-notch producer, Kenny Stubblefield, will have us waiting for the Hot 3.
Basketball at times has turned into like very selfish, individual, statistical, like, let me get mine regardless of a win or loss, especially at the collegiate level when guys are trying to make it to the next level or professionally. It's not necessarily all about coming in and winning games and championships and playing together and guys being willing to sacrifice. You get more guys that want to go out there and score points and make flashy plays for themselves personally than you do get teams that just want to win basketball games.
Well, and I think the transfer portal has kind of accentuated that, right?
Oh, 100%. You come in and you got 13 new guys every year. Like, it's gonna be difficult to.
It's almost like you got 13 mercenaries, right? That are representing a team that the majority of the fan base would live and die for.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
We talked about the trade deadline, which is coming up on February the 8th. I like to play connect the dots, kind of taking loose pieces of the puzzle and connecting them together to make the whole broader picture make sense. And there's been a lot of puzzle pieces that seem to be pointed at Luke Kennard. You start hearing that Quentin Grimes has interest from Memphis, right? And then you hear like the Knicks are looking for shooting. You hear him talking about, you know, the tax aprons and all this. You hear all this stuff about, and that's a real thing, man.
Yeah, because Desmond Bain extension coming up.
Yeah, because you about between Jared John and Desmond Bain, you're about to have a lot of salary tied up in the three dudes, right? So there's certain luxuries you may not be able to have, which is the best shooter in the NBA being the fifth guard in your rotation. You're worried about freeing up a roster spot, not only for Gigi Jackson, but your own draft pick.
Yep.
You got to make a spot for both of those guys, right?
Yep.
So there's a trade, man, that looks to be screaming at us in the face that feels like it's inevitable to happen.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Oh man, it is so good to be back in studio, fellas.
I need your energy to come up.
Yeah, that was
come on now. Come on.
You're supposed to be our emotional leader.
We're supposed to do some emotional follow the leader. Come
Let's
on.
get it.
There. Okay. There we go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It's so good to be back, man.
I missed everything but this song.
You don't like this song.
I like when the beat drops.
the beat drop is nice.
The start of it kind of
It's rough.
I'll say this: it makes the drop a lot better.
I feel like some belly dancers are about to walk in here.
Yeah. That's actually the title of the song.
Is it?
Belly Dancers Walk In. I don't know.
Okay, I got you.
The Belly Dancer March. Oh, man, dude, it is really good to be back. But y'all ready to get into this hot three?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Man, it's been a pretty interesting year for the Grizzlies, wouldn't y'all say?
I
Not in the best of ways.
I would say so.
Not in the best of ways, but, man, we're seeing some kind of, like, interesting stuff going on right now with the Grizzlies. They're missing, I think, 6 of their top rotational players are out with injury.
They've been playing one starter in
Jaren Jackson Jr. for a while. It's been Jaren Jackson Jr. in the hustle playing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But in that, there's been some wins that have been happening. Right now, they're playing against Sacramento, and last time I saw, they're up
50-47, and they have 11 guys hurt, 8 guys active.
Yeah.
3 of those are 2-ways. One of them's a 10-day.
They literally,
Not bad.
they literally had to bring
good.
Matthew Hurt up today. So our boy Matthew Hurt,
So
Christian,
they can have a legal team.
from the McDonald's All-American game is now
Me and Kenny did interview Matthew Hurt at the McDonald's All-American game. What was that, 2019?
2019,
When
man.
he was going to come to
Seems
Memphis.
like a bit of a
but then-
goober.
Kenny?
He can play ball. He's got a little goober in him, though. You can tell.
There was definitely, yeah. Me and Kenny both said basically that when we left.
Yeah,
Goober.
That guy.
Goober is one of those words that, like, you know what it means when you hear it.
It's a
fun
but
word.
you can't really define it,
No.
really.
Yeah.
Just say goober.
The definition is just in the phrase, like the way that it's
Yes, the way it's
the
in
word
the
is
word.
in the
Exactly.
word, like goober.
Yes.
But no, so they brought Matthew Hurt up just so they could fill the damn team for the game tonight. You have to have 8 players active, and they had 7 due to injury. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. But the question for this entire year, I think, after Ja's injury was we got to find, and it was this way at the beginning of the year too, was who are going to be the wing players of the future, right? Like it was always, they've drafted a few wings, Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, Zaire Williams, and I think out of the 3 of those guys, David Roddy's the only guy who even looks like a serviceable NBA player on that roster. But there's been a couple of guys that have emerged from the Memphis Hustle this year. Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson are getting minutes. Gigi Jackson being the youngest player in the entire NBA. What are your guys' thoughts, man? Like, what have you seen just in the last couple of days? Let's go Vince Williams first.
Okay,
man. What are y'all's
I'll
thoughts
go
on
Vince Williams Jr. first.
Let me go first, actually, because I think you deserve a lot of flowers on the Vince Williams train. I'll just give.
I
those
don't
to
need
you
him, man. I don't
on the
need him.
forefront of this because
don't need him.
several weeks ago, before
This was really summer league last year where I
Right.
saw Vince play for the first time. I'm like, what? I mean, he's gonna get a look at some point,
Right.
And it took a while.
It did take a while, but earlier this year you were excited for what he could be and seeing extended minutes from him. Now that we're seeing that, I think that's all been pretty validated. So props to you.
Thank you, sir.
On seeing a little something in Vince Williams. And yeah, or I guess we're just talking about him right now. So yeah, with Vince Williams, we talked about the energy that he brings is basically, for us, I think was a really big selling point earlier this year. I think now we're seeing him more comfortable, start to settle in a little bit, know that they're... I think what's helpful for him and Gigi Jackson both is there's not really any pressure on them to perform at some elite level and take this team into the playoff. Like, there's none of that. It's basically go out there, show us what you got. No, but you don't have to look over your shoulder because we're not really trying to win games. There's nobody really behind you anyway. So just go play ball, and I think that's been helpful for both of them. But with Vince, I think we see him getting more and more comfortable by the game. And Gabe Kuhn was on it.
I'll get to Vince Williams Jr. here in a second, but I want to say just in general, I've had a lot more fun watching the Grizzlies than the Tigers.
So you put
fair.
that. Okay, can we get to that?
And I'm not pitting the two against each other. That's not what I'm doing.
No.
I'm just saying from an enjoyment standpoint, I watch the Tigers and I have to take blood pressure medication, even though I'm not on blood pressure medication. When I watch the Grizzlies, it's like the lack of expectation just sort of has
Makes
made
it kind of fun. Yeah.
And it's like guys that you don't expect to do something that ultimately get something done.
Right.
And
they're winning games.
Yeah, and that in itself makes it fun for me.
Yeah.
And they're 3-3 in their last 6. They had a 3-game winning streak against the Raptors. The win against the Heat at
Miami.
At Miami in Terry Rozier debut with the Heat. That's just fun as hell. Then you beat the Magic, who have been really good in the Eastern Conference. Man, this team is fun to watch. And a part of that, listen, I think there's a limit to how high you can get about this team because they're not a postseason team, yada yada. But damn, in the moment, it's fun as shit.
Right. Have fun.
And then I look at
the
Tigers, and I'm just like, damn,
So
it's not fun. It's not
tight.
a fun
It's
product.
very
Everything's tight.
So you posed that question on Twitter. You actually did a poll this last week. Were you surprised by the results?
No, not really. Grizzlies, I got about 300 votes on it, and the Grizzlies won 55 to 45.
Okay.
%.
Yeah.
I could see, like, in the end of the day, I could see where the Tigers, you're still, like, hanging on it because they have more that they could technically accomplish.
Right. There's more. The ceiling
you're
is
not
higher.
limiting the high because eventually when they get into a tournament, you never know what can happen.
Right.
Or if they get into a tournament. But theoretically, there's more out there for them to accomplish. So I get where people go with the Tigers. But I think just right now, and it could change week to week, month to month, how you feel about your enjoyment. I enjoy watching the Grizzlies a lot more.
Yeah.
Now, Vince Williams Jr.
Go for it.
I'm tired of people holding out on this guy, and I think there's less and less. But like when I look at this guy, I made this statement. I'm now to the point with him. I'm waiting on him to have a bad game.
Oh no, 1,000%.
He has not had a bad game in a Grizzlies uniform this year.
Yeah.
He's played like 36 games,
which is what an unbelievable skill set to have, like to not have a bad game.
Just everything he brings to the floor, it's just winning basketball. He'll cover your best perimeter player. He's a really good rebounder. He's a top 3 rebounder on this team, especially for his size. Offensively, he can knock down a three. He's 39% on the year, and since he's gotten more looks. With like Desmond Bane out, he's been knocking him down at even a higher clip. He's up in like the 40s right this second. The Grizzlies converted his contract $7.9 million, so they clearly believe in the guy. I've said I think this guy, even on a playoff contending Grizzlies team, with John Morant, Jaren, Dez healthy, Steven Adams healthy, he could be a starter on a playoff caliber Grizzlies team. Like, I don't see why not.
Yeah,
He would fit really well into that role alongside all those scorers because he's one of the rare players
That doesn't care.
that doesn't give a damn about his offensive stats.
Yeah.
He can go get them if he wants, if he gets the opportunity, but he doesn't care. He takes more pride in the other stuff.
Right.
And it's very clear when you watch his game.
Well, just imagine though, like if they don't have to start him and they can bring him off the bench.
No, I
like
get
he
that, but
automatically makes your bench so much better.
Let me bring this back at you, though, right? Marcus Smart, of course, is going to get the first crack if he's still on this team, which I
Absolutely.
expect. He'll get the first crack at the 3.
Yeah.
But if Marcus Smart it's not a perfect fit, imagine Marcus Smart off the bench
Off
as
the
a
bench.
secondary ball handler and 6-man.
Or what you could do with Marcus at the trade deadline.
But sure, but I'm
Right?
just
Like-
saying, right. But if Marcus is still on this team, which I kind of expect at this moment for him to be on the team going into next year, you don't give up Tyus Jones and 2 firsts
Right.
to just get rid of him at the first inconvenience. So I think he'd get the first crack as a starter. But let's say that it's slower, it's not as perfect of a fit as you thought. Vince slides in there. Marcus Smart is a secondary ball handler when Jaw's out of the game and as your 6-man.
And I think that almost fits better.
I do too. I do
Truthfully.
too. Now again, I will. Marcus deserves the first shot.
For
He
sure.
should get the first shot. But if there's any like questions that you have, like 3, 4, 5, 6 games into it,
Yeah.
pull the string and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I think Vince Williams Jr. It's beyond 6th, 7th man. I think he could start on NBA.
Oh, absolutely.
On
Yeah.
a bunch of NBA teams.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
no doubt.
And people will talk about. I've heard 2 main criticisms. One, he's 6'4". Does he play 6'4"?
Not
Have
at
you
all.
watched the guy? He has a 7-foot wingspan and he
guess who else?
rebounds like a maniac.
Yeah.
Guess who else is 6'4"?
Marcus Smart. But point being, Vince Williams Jr. plays even bigger than
But he-
Marcus
he
Smart.
plays bigger than Marcus,
And Marcus
absolutely.
Smart plays bigger than his size.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there's that, and then what? This hold up is hilarious. Before Dez got hurt, everybody's like, we've seen his defense. We really like the energy he brings. I don't know if he's that good of an offensive player.
Right.
I don't know if he's got that good of an offensive player. So let's go through his stats since Dez has been out. You ready for this? Let me go ahead and pull up his games. Point totals since Desmond Bane went out against the LA Clippers. 17, 24, 10, which was his low, by the way. 14, 18, 25, 11, and 20. And in those games, he's shooting above 40% from 3.
Yeah.
Kiss my ass. He can play offense. He can play offense. Like, let's stop the hold. Don't hold back. There's no reason to hold back with the guy. He's showing you it, and it's a big enough sample size for you to trust it going forward.
Yeah.
And clearly the Grizzlies trust it. They converted his contract. Now, Gigi Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm still,
dog, man.
I'm still like, he's 19.
Right.
So I'm when it comes to him developing the player he could be, I'm still more on the if side than the win side.
I agree with that.
I think there's some people that are already completely sold.
They are.
He's gonna be a guy. We'll see.
The
I
talent.
wanna people that want to hold back on Vince Williams Jr. and not hold back on Gigi Jackson.
Right.
I don't really get that.
I don't get that either.
Gigi does not have much of a sample size. Now, what I do like about him is he's getting his shots and his points within the offense, and he's knocking when he gets open from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
It seems automatic right
Yeah.
now, and you wonder if that ever regresses to a mean that we saw at South Carolina. But he's tremendously talented, and he's 6'9", and he's 220.
Yeah.
And he's strong.
hasn't
he can
even really
rebound.
hasn't really had professional weight training and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
which
He's
is
a-
kind of
he's a-
scary because he's
Yes.
huge. He's
Yeah.
a man.
Yeah. No, he's a
He's
baby.
built like a man.
He's still
though.
a baby.
But he's built like a man.
Oh, he is. But I'm saying age-wise, mature, like he's
He's
still a baby.
19
Yeah.
years old. On the young side of 19, he just turned 19 at the right before the new year, I think.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
I mean, I'm excited about the guy, but I just want to see it, continue to progress
Yeah.
and get him a bigger sample size.
Yeah.
See how well he consistently plays within an NBA offense.
Couldn't agree more. All
Do
right.
you see?
Oh,
do you
sorry.
see him as a rotational player next year for the Grizzlies?
So here's where I'm at. He's on a different two-way. So after this year, they either have to convert him or give him a chance elsewhere.
He'd
I
be
think
a
they
restricted
can-
free agent. Yeah.
I think they convert him, give him a regular contract, and rotation, sure, but I think 10-man rotation.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
like 8-man
Right,
rotation.
right.
Because I think when you get everybody healthy,
When you get BC
Well,
back,
I mean, when
you
you
get
get
Steve-O.
like think about the top 8 when they're back healthy. This is what's exciting about all this new stuff with Vince and Gigi. Their top 8 when they get back healthy: Ja, Jaren, Dez, Steven, Marcus, Vince Williams Jr., Luke Kennard,
Brandon Clark.
and then you could go
Aldama.
Santi.
Yeah.
That's
David
9
Roddy is 10.
Yeah, see if David Roddy or Gigi is a 10th, like damn.
Yeah.
Like this team, as much as this is a lost season, because it is, you have seen some things come to fruition that you didn't expect come to fruition.
Absolutely.
And going into next year, I'm about as positive as I've ever been about what this team could accomplish. I really am.
Last question for you about this. Are you team tank or are you just play games the way?
Play the game.
Just play it out.
Play the game. You're not catching these terrible teams behind you. And you're probably going to be right there outside of the plan, which is still the lottery.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And like, there's not really, like, if you are the 8th worst team versus being the 12th worst team,
Not much difference.
your chances to get into the top 5 still suck.
Yeah.
And they don't really diminish that big.
Yeah.
If you're so like, no, I'm not one who's holding back at all. Like if they win, I'm happy about it. I'm like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah,
that was fun. If they lose, that was okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just-
but people that are like, oh, keep losing for the tank. No, who cares? And I don't even think this draft is worth all that.
No.
It's not worth
It's
being
not.
like, oh, lose every game and sit everybody down.
No.
I don't think it's worth all that.
No, I agree. All right, second topic. Here we go. Man, this weekend was NFL Championship Sunday. Incredible games. Lots of drama in them. We had the Baltimore Ravens facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Detroit Lions playing the San Francisco 49ers. Let's go Baltimore, Kansas City first. What are your guys' thoughts on the game, man? Was it what you thought it would be?
Mahomes is still on the throne.
We'll revert back to a different discussion out of this.
Yeah.
Next, but Mahomes is still that guy, man.
Yeah.
If you're a promising AFC quarterback,
Good
and
luck.
you play against Patrick Mahomes, that's where your legacy goes to die.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson felt all of that.
And to me, the way that this game played out and what it is and why the Chiefs won this game and are advancing to their 4th Super Bowl in the last 5 years is you saw a team that had been there before and a team that had not been there before. And it showed penalties, play calling, miscues.
Keep going down.
Everything that looked inexperienced was shown by the Ravens.
Man, I had higher hopes for the Ravens, man. I really did.
And they very easily could have won this game.
I'll say this. Patrick Mahomes in the first half was unreal.
Yeah.
Like unreasonably good. Mike McDonald, though, the good defensive coordinator he is for the Ravens, made adjustments at half. They didn't do
Nothing.
diddly
No.
in the second half. The MVP of the Chiefs goes to their defense, to L'Jarius Sneed, and to Steve Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator.
Yes, agreed.
All he did the entire day was light Lamar Jackson up and speed up his internal clock and bother the hell out of him.
Yeah.
I think Todd Monken did him a favor, though, with his game plan. He only ran the ball 16 times, threw the ball 37 times with Lamar Jackson, and they were first this year in run play percentage. So
Right.
that's not how they got there, and he completely switched up the plan, even though they weren't ever down by a lot.
They
They were always in the game, but you never really had hope because of how they were running their offense.
Yeah.
But your point about like experience, I think the biggest shot that the Ravens took was one of the most inexperienced sort of moments of the game, and that's Zay Flowers catches the ball downfield, gets a taunting penalty, sets him back 15 yards. He catches a crosser, about to get in the end zone, gets it punched out by L'Jarius Sneed because he's reaching the ball out, which I personally, having played ball, I think that I'm not mad at him for trying to go make a play.
No.
What I do get mad at is I think it's a relatively selfish play. Don't reach the ball out there because you know what the consequences are if that gets knocked out of bounds, out of the back of the end zone, or if it gets knocked out of your hands. They're going to hop on it and they're going to take over possession. But that was the game to me, summed up. It's just, I agree with you. You saw a Ravens team that's just not, they don't have the level of championship DNA that Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce possess. And Travis Kelce, I mean, we've been talking about him regressing all year, and what does he do? 11 catches, 116 yards, and a TD.
Yeah. And
Rashee Rice is a stud.
Can we talk about that play between those two? I mean, not just one.
The third
that series of plays that they had together.
That third down flip out there.
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
You talking about the one where he laid out?
Yeah, where he laid out.
Fourth down.
That was fourth down.
Yeah.
Sorry, and he just sort of
And earlier in that drive,
pressed it out there.
He
Shot put it.
Or sorry, it wasn't. You're right. It was a third down. The 4th and 2 was earlier in that drive. He ran kind of a deep crosser, and Mahomes just put a laser on him, kind of on the right sideline. And then the third down, Mahomes scrambles around, is getting hit, lays it up there. Kelsey lays out, and then they cap the drive with the back shoulder where Kyle Hamilton had it perfectly covered, and it was a
that
dart.
was a dart and a hell of a catch, too.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. That was the first touchdown.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that was
Laser
completed.
beam.
I couldn't believe that was completed. That was nuts.
Yeah.
One thing that just always gets me about the Chiefs, and it's kind of like the Patriots back in the day with Tom Brady. They just make these plays in those type of games and those type of moments that just break your back and break your soul.
Yeah.
And all the emotions. Like if you felt like you had momentum, you no longer have momentum.
Yeah. The third and 9 play.
They do these things to just break your heart.
Yeah.
Rip your heart out. Like the L'Jarius Sneed punch out is a good example. The third down where he flips it over to Travis Kelce to set up a scoring drive.
The end of the game.
The first touchdown of the game, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, this went
There is
right.
2 guys in the NFL who could make that play and that throw and that catch.
Yep.
And it's those 2 guys.
Yep. They went right down
They
the field.
just consistently make these plays
And then
in
the dagger.
big moments.
The dagger to end the game.
MVS.
Yeah. Like,
Felt bad for Art in that moment. Arthur Millette.
Arthur Millette.
Yeah, but it was zero. It was zero blitz.
Zero.
Let's man up. And honestly, I see people kind of going after Mike McDonald for dialing that up. I don't blame him in the slightest. That's what you're supposed to do.
You want to
in
give
that
Patrick
spot.
Mahomes time back there?
You have no timeouts
to create. No.
You had no timeouts.
No.
So go after him. You just got the 2-minute warning. It's a third down. Just let it all hang out.
I will say though, man, the Ravens defense is so much fun to watch.
They're really good.
Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen really do.
Rowe didn't have the best game.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Patrick Queen played well.
Patrick Queen played very well. They undoubtedly rival Fred Warner and Drake.
Oh,
Greenlaw.
for sure.
Like
for sure.
Those 2 are 1A, 1B for linebacker duos.
Rowe kind of struggled in this game.
And Kyle Hamilton is a problem.
So let's when we talk about best players in the NFL, you put guys in that conversation. Usually it's quarterback that the media will talk about. But I'm talking about the guys that are best at their position and what they do. I put Trent Williams on that level.
Yeah.
He is just, pound for pound, as good at what he does as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton's on that level.
Oh yeah.
Because you see where they line him up too.
Everywhere.
Free safety, strong safety, box safety. Put him at corner. Have him guard a slot.
You know what?
Put him on the best tight end in the league in Travis Kelce. Bring him on blitzes.
Kyle Hamilton is what Isaiah Simmons was supposed to be.
It's a deep cut, but hell
It
yeah,
is.
that's what it's become,
Yeah.
man. And he just makes play after play. His open field tackling ability is
incredible.
Second to
And
none.
think about that draft: Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton.
That
was their 2 first-round picks, 2 Pro Bowlers.
That's good stuff.
That's very good stuff.
That's good stuff. Now, letting it all hang out, right? I was talking about that a second ago. What Dan Campbell? Let's get to the Lions. Let's get to the Lions and the 49ers.
Okay, so everybody knew as soon as it happened there was going to be so much hate on this, but just kind of like you said with Todd Monken and the Ravens offense, do what got you here. The Lions did what got them there, and everybody wants to talk about the play calling, right? That 4th and 2 to Josh Reynolds was a perfect play call.
How about the 3rd and 10? You wouldn't have had to have a 4th down.
Yeah, exactly. The fumble by Jahmyr Gibbs, it felt very similar. The team that had been there and the team that hadn't been there. And the Lions just kind of crapped down their leg at the end of that game. And it wasn't the decision making. I know you can go back in hindsight and say if they kicked the field goal, that should have been a conversion. If they catch that 4th and 2, they probably go score and the game's pretty much over right then anyway.
I don't think that you need to shoot all that bail. I'll say this though. Dan Campbell in the 4th down decision making is 5th, 6th, 7th on the list of the reasons they lost.
Without a doubt.
Josh Reynolds dropping a 3rd and 10 wide open.
A 4th and 2 wide open.
I'll get to that because that was one of the 4th downs. Jahmyr Gibbs fumble on 1st down inside their own 25.
Yep. Christian Valdor getting hit in the face by a ball.
Christian Valdor. Oh my God, that one was.
That's what ended the game.
That's a backbreaker.
That is a backbreaker.
And you should have had that play made. Am I forgetting anything? Before I
the
keep
fourth
going.
down stuff.
Oh, they had they could have pinned the 49ers late in that game.
Yeah.
And they walked the ball right in the end zone, even though
Yeah.
it was a beautiful punt.
Yeah.
Beautiful punt. But like those things, to me, like the execution of the players was way worse than the decisions made. Now,
100%.
I'm not going to shoot full bail to Dan Campbell, and there's a couple reasons why. One, you can say, okay, this is what got him there. I think when you're playing somebody like the 49ers in pressure-packed situations with a team that hasn't been there before in the NFC Championship, maybe, just maybe switch your thought process a tad bit and take the points.
I mean,
Maybe switch it a tad bit.
I get it, but it was the execution. It wasn't the calls.
Right. But I do think but when you go for it on fourth down,
That's
you're
it's-
always going to put yourself in that
it's true.
position, and you have to take into account maybe that they won't execute. But I do like that he puts it in his players' hands. Now, the other part of it, the second part that really just sort of bothers me about when he went for it on fourth down. One was to go up by 3 scores.
Yeah.
You've played football. I've played football as well. When you go up by 3 scores as opposed to 2 scores, do you feel a lot better about yourself?
Yeah.
Do you feel like a little bit of a pressure is relieved? You don't have to press. You don't have to worry about this other team coming down and scoring and doing all these things, getting back in the game. And then the other one was 27-24 49ers.
Yeah.
To tie the game.
Now that one, I'm with you a little bit more on that
to
one.
tie the game.
Yeah.
You're down by 3 late in the fourth quarter versus being tied in the game.
Yeah. That I agree with.
I just think like he missed out on like the mentality of the guys that he had. These guys have not been there before, and in those 2 particular situations, you give them a little bit of like relax, have fun, let's keep playing how we play.
Yeah.
If you just try to kick it. Now, I do get the point that Michael Badgley is not a good kicker, and he's like 77% from 40-plus yards, and both those kicks would have been from 40-plus yards. I don't know. I'm just of the opinion you make one of the 2, you feel a lot better about yourself.
I agree. But Josh Reynolds catches that ball, they win that game.
Like I said, it's down the list, but I don't think we should sit here and act like it meant nothing.
No, it
because I
definitely-
think there was a mentality shift when they because like the 49ers are at home, you hold them on a fourth down. That momentum starts shifting their direction. Oh, shit, we have a chance to come back. We're only down by 2 scores.
As soon as Josh Reynolds dropped that ball on 4th and 2, the game was effectively over. Truthfully, it was over. It was done. All the momentum had flipped, and then, 3 or 4 plays later, they score a touchdown after Christian Baldwin drops the interception.
That's where I disagree with it. And I just don't like everybody shooting him bail for it, because I think you just have to treat every situation in a vacuum to a certain extent.
No, I'm 50-50 on it.
You can't just say, well, we've been there and done that, and this is how we do it. No, sometimes you're in the NFC Championship and you're up by 14, and you have to.
Yeah, there's nuance to
it. You have to treat it correctly.
I like the first one because I
go for the win. Go for the
dagger.
I get it.
But to tie the game, go tie the game.
Yeah, but I still think they should have gone up by 3 scores. I don't quite get that.
All right, Kenny.
Let's go topic number 3. Let's go back to the Baltimore Ravens Kansas City Chiefs game. It's kind of been a hot topic on this show for the entire season, starting at the beginning of the year.
Starting last year.
I'll be correct though. Can I get my correct part out?
Hold on.
I did. Okay.
He hasn't even,
I haven't even
teed it up
haven't
yet.
even teed it up to you
All
yet.
right. Sorry.
We've been talking
excited.
about Lamar Jackson as an MVP candidate for a long time. Looks like he's still going to probably win his 2nd straight MVP,
Which I called.
which Gabe called.
He's a genius.
But he came in. He obviously Baltimore came into that game against Kansas City as a favorite, and everybody expected them to win and go to the Super Bowl and cement Lamar Jackson's legacy as one of the elite quarterbacks of this generation. And then this happened. The game happened. Let me ask you this: does that loss impact Lamar Jackson's legacy?
I mean, as of right now, yeah, for sure. Because this was the year where everybody said, okay, Lamar
Show me you can do it in the playoffs.
is going to do it in the playoffs. Because he never has. If you historically look at what Lamar Jackson has done in the playoffs, it has not been good. He had by far his best game of the playoffs against the Texans. And I know people got excited about that, but I think a lot of us lost sight of that. That was a rebuilding Texans team that didn't give the Ravens much of a fight. They did in the first half, honestly. It was way closer than it should have been. But that wasn't a good Texans team that they played.
No.
So the Ravens weren't really faced with much adversity in the first round. I think people kind of vindicated themselves, saying this is the year for the Ravens. This is when they do it, even though they beat a Texans team that is a year or two ahead of schedule. And they beat them by 24, and you get another one of the, Ravens beat another team over 500 by 10-plus points, when in reality the Texans were never going to win that game and never had a chance in that game. Now, granted, Lamar Jackson, to me, by far and away, had the best year of his career. I know his MVP year in 2019 was ridiculous stats-wise, 35 touchdowns, over 1,000 rushing yards. But as far as a player, as a quarterback, just as an overall player, this was by far and away Lamar's best year. The 2019 season,
Greg Roman offense, you're running the shit out of the ball.
It was a lot of runs. I think he had maybe 25 of his 35 touchdowns were within 5 yards.
And let's be honest about it. Like, it was kind of a take the league by storm year for him, where they didn't have a bunch of film on what they wanted, what they were going to do with Lamar. And he was able to eat them up in the passing game because they're biting on the run and they're playing the run
because
so hard.
Optically, if you watched him throw the ball that year, you would go,
This year was different.
Nothing special. This year, he looked really good. But in the moment again, in the big moment, in the opportunity, because let's not act like this is the first good Ravens team that he's played on that could have went to a Super Bowl. He did not play well. And he's shown historically now, more often than not, in big games, not only in the playoffs, but in the regular season as well, those big pivotal matchups, most of the time, he's faltered in those games. And this was probably his worst game of the entire season. Was in the biggest moment in the AFC Championship game. And I know the stats don't look terrible, 8 carries, 54 yards, 272 passing yards, but you dig a little bit deeper and you watch that game. They made him uncomfortable from the first snap. He never looked comfortable. He made a lot of bad decisions when he threw the ball. I know he had the interception that he threw to Deion Bush late in the game. Should have thrown another one, Nick Bolton, that went right through his hands earlier in the game on just to sped up his clock. Bad throw. So he just looked bad. What was the completion percentage? 57%, I think, in this game.
He was 20 for 37.
20 for 37. So it just, I really don't want to take anything away from his season. Because
he was phenomenal this year.
He's going to win the MVP. He had a great year, but he still got the monkey on the back. He still hasn't been able to prove it in those big playoff type atmospheres.
This is hard for me to admit because I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, and I think he gets unfairly castigated at times as not a true quarterback. He's a different looking quarterback, and his style is completely different. It still wins ball games. Now in the playoffs, here's what I have to admit: he's demonstrably worse.
Yeah,
he is in his playoff career, 57% completion percentage, 1,300 yards, 6 TDs, 6 INTs.
Yeah.
Of the 4 quarterbacks that participated on Championship Sunday, he had the worst QBR, and he was honestly the worst quarterback that played on Sunday. All this is to say, I don't want to draw conclusions about him and will he ever be able to get over the hump. I think he'll get more cracks at it. We'll continue to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I'm just telling the truth, the narrative that has been created, that he has played his part in creating, is still going to be there, and it's there, and it's fair, too. It is fair what is being said about him and his playoff success, or lack thereof. He does not play well in the playoffs. That was shown again, and you tip the cap to Steve Spagnuolo for drawing up a good game plan. You tip the cap, if you were against Lamar Jackson, to Todd Monken for having an awful offensive
his game plan.
Yeah. But everything that has been said about him and will be said about him is fair. And I mean, we do this with guys in the NBA all the time, where we say, okay, great regular season player. Can he do it in the playoffs? Jason Tatum's one of those guys. Jaylen Brown, guys like that. That's Lamar Jackson now. Yeah, you can do everything you want during the regular season.
Yeah,
you can go, you can go hoop. You can have an MVP caliber season. What are you going to do in the playoffs?
Right.
And I think that's all on the table, and it should be on the table.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a question for you real quick. Y'all talked about Todd Monken a few times changing up the game plan, like what they did throughout the season. Christian saw that. We all saw that with the Dallas Cowboys defense as well. Dan Quinn went to zone a lot in his game.
Well, no.
Why do coaches do that? Like,
Well,
why?
Dan Quinn was a little different, Kenny. Dan Quinn ran his nickel package out there against big sets the entire game.
Right.
Against the Packers.
It looked
that was a problem. But if you listen, I know I'm going to get into the weeds here.
Yeah, go
but
for it.
Screw it.
what we do.
We had a film. The way me and Christian started as a duo was doing film room.
So our brains working that way.
So he ran out of nickel package against big sets the entire game. But what a lot of NFL coordinators will tell you is if you can stop the run playing nickel, you're going to win a ball game. So I guess that's what Dan Quinn was trying to do. I don't know if he really switched up his game plan as much as he didn't adjust at all.
Yeah.
Once he saw that the Packers were going to run it right down his throat.
And for Todd Monken, and
He switched the game plan, though.
he did, but honestly, it makes sense.
Yes, because you're getting lit up and run blitzes. You're scared of the pressure.
What does, if an offensive coordinator has one of the best quarterbacks in the league and said quarterback is being blitzed
Let's say it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. If a team is blitzing Patrick Mahomes over and over and over and over, what is Andy Reid going to do? Air that ball out. Go over the top. That's what you do.
Yeah, and quick completions.
Because
get guys in open space.
Right, they're bringing run blitzes.
You know what's funny though is later in that game you saw Justice Hill get loose on a nice little, just flat route.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards had a little crosser that he did. They got the running back some of those quick completions, and it worked. And he abandoned that.
It's when they moved down the field.
And then he never really did that in the first half.
No.
So he didn't really draw up quick completions. I know, because if Patrick Mahomes got blitzed, as much as Lamar Jackson did on Sunday, he'd go for 450 yards.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't throw a pick. Like, I get that. But I don't think that, even if you go deeper into Todd Monken's game plan, he was trying to draw up downfield concepts.
Shots. Yeah, intermediate
and it's like,
and deep shots.
What are we doing exactly? You're going to get lit up, so let's explore the underneath.
Yeah.
Let's get some intermediate routes going. Let's stop taking a bunch of deep shots when you're not going to have as much time in the pocket. And maybe the thought process was, he's going to light up Lamar, but Lamar's going to escape and make things happen.
And he couldn't. They did.
There just comes a moment where you have to use sound logic. I don't know if Todd Monken did that.
Yeah.
And I also think that they have a strong enough offensive line and run game, even if they're bringing run blitzes.
To run against
Run the damn ball.
Yeah. We'll close it on that. Run the ball.
Run the ball.
All right. We are going to get out of here. We appreciate you guys for joining us back in studio this week. Good phone drop from Gabe there. If you are watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, comment there. You can do the same wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, any of those other platforms. So we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.